The mini drone threat to India is real, and that chapter has officially begun. Over the next 25 minutes, I'm going to tell you precisely what this threat is about, how prepared India is, and what the country is doing about it. We're decoding India's drone nightmare. Hours after drones were used to attack the Jammu Air Force Station over the weekend, 2 more drones were spotted in the nearby Kaluchak military area, also in Jammu, early this morning, triggering a massive security scare. The first drone was spotted late last night at about 11:45, while the other was spotted early this morning at 2:40. Complete darkness. The major threat was thwarted by the alertness of security personnel on the ground who engaged the drones with their rifles. But is this ever going to be enough? Take a look.
After drone attack at Jammu airbase on Sunday, no stopping drone terror in Jammu. Hours after drone carrying 2 IED payloads rocked the high security airbase, around 8 kilometers away, 2 more drones were spotted at the high security military base in Kaluchak area, triggering a major security scare. First drone was spotted at 11:45 p.m. on Sunday, while another at 2:40 a.m. on Monday. Soon a high alert was sounded and quick reaction teams sprung into action. Our alert and provocative troops opened 20 to 25 rounds on the drones, thwarting the major threat. But both the drones managed to fly away due to the darkness.
Now, the military establishment has swung into action. Intense search operation is being carried out both in Ratnuchak and Kaluchak military stations areas. And in the VRs, when the drones were witnessed, the alert security forces fired at those drones. 20 to 25 rounds of fire were fired by the security forces. That's what the army is saying. But soon those drones vanished from that spot.
Sources say that these drones were quadcopters which are used by the Pakistan Army and Pak Rangers. Terrorists too use them for recce purposes and need no particular surface for the launch. The small 4-rotor drone is operated by a remote control, making it difficult to nab the person operating it. Search operations are underway to locate the drones. A high alert has been sounded in Jammu and particularly across military stations. The use of small drones raise security alarm as they are capable of avoiding traditional security measures. In almost all cases, operator remains behind cover and explosives can be dropped with great accuracy. Through drones, attacks can be carried out from a position of safety. Drones are relatively quiet and hard to spot. 2 days, multiple drones creating upheaval but failing to wreak havoc thanks to our alert forces. With Sunilji Bhatt in Jammu, Bureau Report, India Today.
Jammu on Saturday was the first of its kind attack on an Indian military installation using cheap little plastic drones built by China. Drones were used to target the Jammu Air Force Station, a high security establishment. A day after those 2 explosives rocked the airbase, security agencies are connecting the dots as to what led to this massive security breach. The National Investigation Agency, the National Security Guard and the Indian Air Force Special Forces are on the ground probing the evidence. Sources have told India Today that a highly explosive impact IED was used in the attack. The IED exploded when explosives burst on impact when it comes in contact with the ground or surface with force. It is being revealed that the 2 IEDs had shrapnel of 2 kilograms each. Samples have been sent for forensic testing and it may take 42 to 48 hours for test results. A preliminary investigation suggests that RDX could have been used in the Jammu airbase attack and that could nail Pakistan's role. RDX is not available freely in India. It's sourced from Pakistan by terror groups. Investigations also suggest that the attackers could have been operating drones from a close proximity to the airbase on Indian soil. Agencies are working on 2 theories. If the drones came from across the border, which is unlikely, or was it operated from within Jammu itself, given the low range of these drones? So far, only splinters and explosive remnants have been recovered. It is suspected that a trained hand of the ISI or Pakistan Army could have perpetrated the attack. Sources have revealed that raids are being conducted in Jammu in connection with the airbase attack. Now, in light of what happened in Jammu and earlier today in the Kaluchak military station, remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about those small little quadcopter drones that you see flying, taking pictures of people during their weddings, for tourism, photography, etc. These are the big questions we're asking. Can India stop such drone attacks? I'm going to answer each one of these questions. Can't India mount such drone strikes of its own? We've got drones. Can't we just rig them up with grenades and send them across the border? Is that easier said than done? I'll answer that as well. Are our cities under threat too? Or is this just a border area issue? It's happened in Jammu, it's happened in Kaluchak. What about our cities? Are we vulnerable to such drone attacks? Why have these attacks happened just now? What is it about the timing? You know, why hasn't it happened before? Can that be explained? And I promise to decode all of that for you over the next few minutes. But first, as this drone threat hovers, the monster question that cannot be ignored is, can India stop these drones? What can we do to stop drones from actually doing this? Because remember, even though this was a low-intensity attack, the fact that they penetrated a high-security military installation and caused damage means it's an act of war, no matter which way you look at it. Or are we going to be doomed to be completely overwhelmed by this kind of mini drone warfare? Take a look at this report. Tiny little carriers of terror, with nothing but the wind beneath their little rotors. They've signaled a new nightmare for Indian security. We've long been in the age of military drones, but it's the most simple of these unmanned air machines. Tiny little hobby quadcopters that are now the compellers of India's sleepless nights. The monster question, can India stop mini drone warfare, or are we doomed to be overwhelmed? The bad news first. There's no blanket solution, and the literally miniature size of the threat means there's never going to be 100% defense against it. A comprehensive approach is going to be necessary. First things first, traditional air defense radars at our military stations and airports are programmed for large targets like aircraft, helicopters, and bigger drones. If they're calibrated to detect small hobby drones, even birds would set off radar alarms, overwhelming the system and causing chaos and confusion. Apart from sanitization of areas around sensitive installations, specialized equipment does exist to counter drones in flight. But these again are hit or miss, with no guarantee of full protection. As you can imagine, the Indian Air Force and Bureau of Civil Aviation are scrambling to address the threat to installations. Most technologies, including anti-drone jammers and systems, are deployed in the terminal stage of a rogue drone's flight path, the last 100 meters or so, when there's very little reaction time. It would therefore be hard for a defense system to precisely identify a rogue drone's vulnerabilities and then deploy countermeasures. India's own DRDO says that its anti-drone device can bring down micro-drones at a distance of up to 3 kilometers and use lasers to target them from distances of over 1 kilometer away. Another security force operating under the Home Ministry recently imported a high-powered electromagnetic system, which zaps drones with an electromagnetic pulse, causing them to crash. But these systems could not be deployed at airports because of the risk to incoming aircraft. So you begin to see the complications in anti-drone defense. The outlook remains unfortunately bleak. Many existing countermeasures will be powerless against a swarm attack, a pack of drones flying into their targets from multiple directions. The next big scare began in Jammu, for which there are few answers yet. With Sandeep Unithan in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today. As we face this new threat of drones from Pakistan and terrorists operating on their soil, there will be a question in your mind. Can't India conduct mini drone strikes of its own? Have we already started doing it? It's a difficult question, but I answer it in this report. You've been watching the news of the mini drone attacks in Jammu. Dinky little plastic drones triggering a state of high alert. Bits of plastic sparking fear and terror in an age of high-tech warfare. But you're probably also thinking, can't India also conduct mini drone strikes? The simple theoretical answer is yes. Converting a hobby drone into a grenade carrier isn't a complicated task and can be done at low cost without much effort. These silent killers are hard to detect and neutralize in time and can be used to wage war with plausible deniability. But if your question is whether India conducts such mini drone strikes already, well, that's where things begin to blur. Let's tell you what we know for sure. For starters, like we said, rigging an IED or grenade to a drone isn't difficult. Several medium performance hobby drones can easily be integrated for such tasks. Second, Indian forces have been scouting mini drones purpose-built for such strikes, like the Israeli Firefly seen in these pictures, a helicopter-style mini drone packing a sensor and warhead basically used by infantry teams to hunt down, pinpoint and attack kamikaze style. These devastating drones have recently been ordered by the Israeli Defense Forces and could soon find a place with Indian infantry teams. And finally, Indian drone companies, which already supply high-quality drones to the Indian military, are looking to offer armed varieties of their quadcopters, giving the military the option of purchasing specialized, tiny hunter-killers.
There are multiple things, Shiv. So there are various category of armed drones that will be required, and there are reports that a significantly large number is going to be required. However, as a company, Idea Forge is probably not going to look at arming them ourselves. At the very best, we may look at partnering with people who want to, put such payload. Now, whether do we have payload capability or not, we do have payload capability on some of our systems. However, we are probably only looking at partnerships in that domain. So we're going to be exploring this via partners.
The utility of drone attacks like these is they're difficult to trace back and provide a compelling, low-investment effect on the adversary. Whether India will deploy such tactics remains to be seen. Bureau Report, India Today. The terror drones, these small little drones, quadcopters, you've seen them. Many of you probably even own one and operate them as a hobby, as a, an interest. Well, these two incidents have proven that these little harmless hobby drones can be used as instruments of terror. 2 incidents in 2 days in Jammu. But what about India's big cities? Are these drones only a threat in the border areas, or could they harm installations even in our big cities? The answer is an absolute yes. Take a look. First, the Jammu Air Station, and then the Kaluchak Military Station. Both just kilometers from the international border, where the sponsors of such attacks are likely situated. But the tiny range of such drones makes it likely that while they were handled from across, they were piloted from Indian territory for sure. So you're probably wondering in that case, are such drone attacks a threat only in our border areas, or could they hit our cities as well? The straight answer is yes, cities are most definitely vulnerable to mini drone warfare. Think about it. Terrorist sleeper cells and bomb-making units can easily access drones and explosive materials. And such tactics could be used to hit crowded areas in our cities anywhere. How to stop bomber drones, for instance, from crashing into crowds at the Kumbh Mela or flying directly into a VVIP enclosure at an important public event. Unlike open spaces around military stations, detecting drones would be even more difficult in a built-up urban environment. India's national capital, for instance, has recognized the drone threat for years. Task forces appointed by the Delhi Police and Civil Aviation departments have been identifying lists of sensitive installations in Delhi that need anti-drone protection and have been drawing up a standard operating procedure for law enforcement agencies on what to do in the event of a rogue strike in the national capital. India's Republic Day parade in January 2018 was among the first public events where security forces were specifically equipped with radars and anti-aircraft guns to counter rogue drones. Crowded tourist destinations of India are also on alert to the drone threat. The Goa police have developed and deployed a system to track and identify rogue drones, especially over crowded areas, using radio frequency scanner technology. As the implications of the Jammu drone attack sink in, such efforts in the country will be sharpened and accelerated across our cities as well. There isn't a moment to lose. Bureau Report, India Today. But why is this happening now between Jammu on Saturday and Kaluchak this morning in Jammu? Why are these drone strikes happening now? Because they've opened a completely new chapter, nightmarish chapter for India's security. But why is it happening now? I mean, first to give you a little bit of a context, the use of such mini drones instantly gives Pakistan, whichever agency has conducted these strikes, plausible deniability, because you can't identify the drones. The drones obviously get destroyed. Anybody could have done it. So there's plausible deniability. It's very difficult to pinpoint the actual source of the attack. And remember, the very low cost. Some of these drones cost less than 10,000 rupees. It's an option by Pakistan to impose heavy costs on India as part of their ongoing terror campaign against India, but very, very low cost. Now, the point is, why is this happening now? Terrorists have been unable to infiltrate across the line of control because of a very strict vigil that has taken place there. The bid, what these drone attacks mean is there is a bid to sabotage the back-channel peace process between India and Pakistan, as well as the political peace process that's on in Jammu and Kashmir. You saw the all-party meet by the Prime Minister recently as well. The fact that these attacks are happening just after that means there is a concerted attempt possibly to disrupt the forward steps in the political engagement process and to try and derail whatever gains have so far been obtained. So that's the context about the timing. Now, drones or unmanned aerial vehicles are an absolute game changer in future warfare. Now, the irony of this entire situation in Jammu is India operates very, very advanced drones. And when you think of a drone strike, you think of predators launching missiles hundreds of kilometers away. So advanced high-tech drone warfare has been a reality here in India for many, many years. But the irony of this situation is the lowest common technology drones are being used to devastating effect. They're small, they can't be detected easily on our radars. Some have long endurance, can carry different payloads. Drones are changing the outcome of war, as we've seen recently in real conflicts between countries.
The future warfare is said to be unmanned. India saw a small glimpse of it. The twin blasts in the Jammu Air Force Station are said to be the first drone attack on Indian military establishment. Alarm bells ringing over the lurking threat. A big hole on the roof of a building inside Jammu Air Force Station, where two blasts took place early Sunday morning, indicates an aerial attack using drones was part of the plot to target helicopters. The use of drones to carry out bombings might be a first in India, but it's a tried and tested attack method. Taliban have deployed small drones to drop bombs on government forces in recent attacks. Even ISIS has used the ploy to carry out attacks. Here is how drone attacks work. Drone attacks can be carried out by dropping bombs, firing missiles, or crashing armed UAV into the target. The stealth features allow the drones to go undetected, making deep penetrations. US forces have also adopted the strategy of drone warfare to ensure there are less casualties. More recently, the Azerbaijan used armed drones against Armenia last year. Various kinds of armed drones can carry payloads of about the weight of a grenade or a handgun. But new technology could soon come, allowing heavier payloads. Not just military targets, but drones could pose a big threat to critical civilian infrastructure like dams, power plants and bridges in time to come. Drones are changing the face of modern warfare. Aerial attacks using drones loaded with missiles and laser-guided bombs capable of destroying targets deep inside enemy territory are the way forward. India too is developing such technology to boost its unmanned warfare tactics. China is a big player when it comes to drones and unmanned aerial vehicles. But Pakistan is also looking at using armed drones with Beijing's help. China has invested a lot of effort in developing civilian drones, and the same has been translated into combat drones. China is also one of the leading countries when it comes to R&D concerning drone technology.
The damage after the attack might have been minimal, but it has huge implications for the security establishment. Whether this was a trial run for something more sinister or a terror attack gone wrong, only an investigation will reveal. But India needs to ramp up its unmanned warfare capabilities because it is now clear that drone attacks are a reality. Abhishek Bhalla in New Delhi for India Today.